If you could live in the White House, would you choose to live in the wilderness? That's what President Hoover did at Shenandoah National Park.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Welcome to the Travel FOMO podcast. My name is Jamin and Hilarie, and I am here with my First Lady, Hilarie.
Yay! I like that title.
Today we are talking about Shenandoah National Park. This national park is actually right outside Washington, D.C. We were shocked at how close it actually was. I think it's like 75 miles away.
Yeah.
And it was actually the second home for President Herbert Hoover and his family as he lived in the White House and sought an escape out to Shenandoah.
Yeah. It's such a sign that like everybody's been loving national parks from their inception.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. I had no idea about that until we went to the park, that Herbert Hoover had a tie-in there, or that any president really did at all.
Yeah. We
had come down from Acadia, so if you missed the last episode, you'll want to go back and check that. It took a couple days for us to get there. We did what we were getting really accustomed to do and stay at Cracker Barrels on our way. If you've listened to the last few episodes, you've heard us stay at Cracker Barrel a lot of times, and we did it again. It was great again, and we made our way to Shenandoah.
Yeah, you know, Shenandoah, it's in the state of Virginia. It's in the Appalachian Mountains, and it is kind of like this long, narrow park. If you think about the layout of it, you're just kind of like driving this one road on the top of this ridge the whole way.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of great views. If you're not a hiker, or let's say you have little kids or someone with disabilities with you, this park is such a good candidate for you because it really gives you an opportunity to just get to see so much as you're driving through, and you can get a lot of value from driving the Skyline Drive, that one drive that kind of takes you all the way through the park. And in our YouTube video, we actually got into a bunch of we play a game called Fact, Fib in some locations. And Jamin and I got into a lot of facts about the Shenandoah National Park. And here, I'm going to rattle off a few for you guys. So I mentioned Skyline Drive. It's 105 miles long, and it has 81 different vehicle lookout points. So that kind of gives you an idea of what, it's really made for people to drive through easily. So that's awesome.
And stop and see. I was surprised at how many people see the park that way, just on their way through a road trip. They just drive through it.
Yes.
And it's not stay there, come in for the day. They're just on their way somewhere and they get to see it.
Yeah, they're on a road trip and they just decide to drive through the national park. And there are 236 miles of roads. So there's a lot more roads you could take. Mm-hmm. There are 516 miles of hiking trails. So there's a lot of hiking you could do. Yep. The kind of fun part is a lot of hikes can kind of start out going down the mountain from the ridge, because you're driving the ridge and you walk down, but that means that your way back up is hard. That means the second half of your hike is the hardest half.
Yeah, I would definitely rather go up first.
I know.
And have it downhill coming back.
Yeah, exactly. Hawksbill Mountain is the highest peak in the park. It is around 4,000 feet high. Like you said, the park is 75 miles from D.C. It was authorized by President Calvin Coolidge in 1926 and then was established by FDR in 1935. But President Hoover is really the one who has a big thumbprint on this because he established his retreat, and they call it Rapidan Camp. And he established this retreat there. It had 13 buildings at its peak, which is kind of fascinating to think about a presidential campground. Yeah. Legitimately. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy. And we'll tell you more about that in a few minutes, but there are 3 different lodging facilities in the park and 4 different campgrounds. We didn't actually stay within the park. We stayed outside the park in a really fun campground though.
Yeah, we stayed at Endless Caverns RV Resort. Loved it there.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful park, great facilities. And it's named after the cave whose access is right there, the Endless Caverns. Literally endless caverns. They haven't found the end of it.
Literally.
And we'll kind of get into that. We actually got to go in and take a tour, so we'll tell you a little bit about that. But we had this huge site, kind of at the very back of the lot. They were really great to us and put us back in a place. And it was, I guess, starting to be kind of their slow season. And so there was no one around us. We're mostly hidden by trees.
Yeah.
There were several trails that were actually right next to our site, just incredibly private. We got to record some podcasts over there. We got to sit out by the fire and just be completely alone, but inside this RV park, which is a pretty rare experience.
Yeah.
For an RV park, especially I feel like in the Northeast, a lot of the places that we stayed, like we were pretty tight quarters.
True.
With everybody else, but here was completely different. We had so much space to our own, and it was beautiful everywhere.
Yeah, I love being on the side of the mountain, and I didn't know that that's when you look at a map, you can't see elevation.
Right.
So we had no idea. We knew we were at the back of the camp, but we didn't know the back of the camp was like the top of the mountain, kind of.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah. I'm a little dramatic. It wasn't the top of the mountain, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we were definitely on the edge of the mountain, which was really fun. You know, once we did go into Shenandoah, though, there was a lot of hiking, and we did hike several days, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Hawksbill Loop. It was 5 miles. Well, I say it was 5 miles. It was 5 miles for us.
What is that?
Because we accidentally took a different path down and ended up in the wrong parking lot. So we get down to the parking lot and we're like, oh, awesome, yay. And we look around and we're like, I don't see our truck anywhere. And we've got Maggie with us.
Right.
And we're just like, are you kidding me? I cannot believe like we made it down the wrong side of the mountain, basically.
Yeah.
So then we had to like go back up the trail, figure out where things went wrong. And Maggie was a really good sport, but you could tell she was kind of getting tired because 5 miles is a lot for her, especially when you're not like, you know, you're kind of on all these rocks and sticks and different things. She's definitely an indoor dog. So.
Yeah. Well, I remember like making it back down, realizing that we were in the wrong parking lot and going like, man, we have to go back up.
Yeah.
And I was so ready to like chill for a minute.
Yeah.
And it was like, nope,
We're
right
not
back
done.
up. And you knew like, okay, not only do we have to go back up, but if we're going to keep our day on schedule, like
we need to
make this happen quickly. Ugh.
It's so true. Yeah. And hey guys, I just want to pause for a second and say, if you hear noises today, we are recording in our new apartment in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Sunday fun day. I'll just say that. So you might hear some noises from outside our apartment, and we overlook the pool, which is a lot of fun. But there are, Sunday's a fun day. I'll just say that. So
yeah, there's a little bit of music. Our upstairs neighbor put on cowboy boots and apparently is doing jumping jacks. But we're here for it, I guess.
That reminds me of the apartment that you had a long time ago before we got married, and you would always say that the guy above you, what did you call him?
I called him the shark because I felt like if he stopped moving, he would die.
Yeah.
So he just always constantly.
And he would run. He always ran across the apartment.
Would like scamper back and forth across this apartment. I have no idea what that guy's deal was.
Well, and then like in our other apartment here in Dallas, we've had a couple different apartments, but in another one, our neighbor, I promise it sounded like he was killing his little dog. And I finally had you I would call the cops, and I had you run upstairs and confront him, and it was pretty bad. Actually, no, you offered to, because you were like, this is crazy. This really sounds like he's hurting his dog.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. Back to Shenandoah. We hiked Old Rag Mountain one day, and that was definitely a highlight. It was 6 miles round trip, and you have to, I do want to say, it's one of the iconic hikes there, but you do have to make reservations for Old Rag Mountain. And these are hiking reservations, not vehicle reservations, which is kind of important.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we were a little confused. And I think we thought that we were going to show somebody our permit as we entered a a road or something like that, because a lot of times it's an entry, right? Like with your
Right.
vehicle.
I think we thought it would be similar to Rocky Mountain National Park,
Yes.
where to get to one section of the park, you have to have a permit, and you
Yes.
on the road in, you show it.
And it was more like Angel's Landing in Zion National
Right.
Park, where you are showing your permit perhaps to some ranger along the way while you're hiking, because they can only have so many people on the trail.
Yeah.
So not really a problem for us. Honestly, I don't even remember seeing anybody.
Now, remember the ranger was there, like,
Right. But other than the ranger,
oh yeah, no,
It's not
I don't
like-
know why you had to get reservations for that time of year, because there's nobody around.
yeah, we were the only people hiking. So that was just funny though. And I wanted to point it out because we did spend some time trying to figure out like what we were supposed to be doing with our reservation. But yeah, so a park ranger might be sitting in their vehicle on their phone waiting for somebody to walk up. And that's how we figured out where to show our reservation. But that was a fun hike though.
Yeah, that was cool. And kind of one of the most unique hikes we went on was we actually did hike to President Hoover's Camp Rapidan, and it's a really unique part of Shenandoah.
Yeah.
I hadn't ever heard anybody talk about it until we got to the park and we're looking around just to see the different hikes. We found this one. It's about a 4-mile hike, so 2 miles out and 2 miles back. And it's this presidential suite in the national park. And when I say presidential suite, I don't mean like super swanky and nice. It's a cabin, but the president would be there. Hoover really loved to fish, and he loved the outdoors. And so they created this place for him and his wife. They would spend many weeks there every year. So as he was president, he would go out there quite a bit. They had a little office set up for him there so he could work.
He'd bring in other people, like high profile people,
Right,
and
like
just have meetings there and be like, yeah, you can meet with me. You come here.
Yeah, like the prime minister of Britain would actually come quite a bit. And when he would come, they wouldn't go to the White House. They would come out here, and he had a little cabin for him that he would stay in, and they would fish. And I mean,
I think that's
set
so
the world
fascinating.
in motion, basically.
Yeah. That's so cool though, for someone to just be like, no, this is healthy for me. I need to be out in nature, and I'll keep doing my work, and I'm going to be a great president, but you can come meet me out here. It's like the first kind of remote job.
Right? Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So you get to see all of this, like a lot of the buildings are still there. You get to tour them. We actually took a little tour, and they start tours at various times. It so happened that when we showed up to take ours, there was nobody else.
Yeah.
So we got the tour guide kind of to ourselves, which was really cool because you could ask more questions and you felt
Yeah.
more free to, you're not taking up other people's time by being curious about stuff. So we got to learn a lot about not only the place, but also President Hoover and his wife. President Hoover was orphaned at a really young age. So he kind of got shifted around to family as he was growing up. He was in Iowa for a while and Oklahoma. He was sent up to like the Northwest, like Oregon and Washington. That's where he kind of really got into fishing and geology. He eventually went to Stanford, and that's where he actually met his wife. They're both geologists. And
I can't imagine being orphaned and kind of moved all over the place, and then still finding it in yourself to like put yourself into Stanford College.
yeah, I mean, hearing his story, you would think he would be someone that would just like get into a normal job and just be grateful for stability
Yeah.
and not really aim any higher. You're right.
Right.
But at 23 years old, he became a leader in the mining industry in Australia and China.
That's wild. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because of his knowledge of geology and the stuff he'd learned at Stanford, put him on that. Later on, of course, he became the 31st president. They said he had a tremendous power of concentration and also an equally tremendous power of relaxation. So he would like hyper focus on doing his job and then shut it off go fish, and relax, which I think is really cool and really hard to do.
Really hard to do, and a really good lesson for everybody in this world of like multitasking, and we think it's actually possible.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Maybe you just need to like focus, get the job done, do it well, and then fully let yourself relax when you're done.
Right. Well, and Shenandoah was like a big part of him being able to relax. And I think he realized that his relaxing and fishing and standing by the river enabled him to then hyper focus and do his job. And I feel like a lot of times we can't separate from our job enough to get relaxed to then come back and really work again.
Yeah.
We get so tied up in what we have going that we don't ever step away and let it go. And you kind of really need that. And I think he was a really great example of how to do that, which was fascinating. Never knew any of that about him and was so crazy to learn it amidst a hike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you also learned a lot about his wife too.
Oh my goodness. And I was a big fan.
She was a very powerful, ambitious woman. And so Hilarie was all about it.
They were just such a power couple.
They
when
really
you started learning about them, you're just like, this is incredible. Okay, so her name was Lou Hoover. She spoke 5 languages. 5 languages. Back in, what was this, the 30s?
Yeah.
And she spoke 5 languages, including Mandarin, which I'm just like, I don't even know how somebody in the 30s in America could have access to Mandarin. I mean, blew my mind. Then she was also the first woman to graduate from Stanford with a geology degree. So like they met, doing geology in Stanford. She was the first woman there. That's crazy. So he probably went to class he was in Stanford, graduating with a ton of guys, and she was the only girl. And he's like, that's hot. That is hot. She was an outdoor woman. She served as the national president of the Girl Scouts. And so they talked a lot about that. And she also loved camping. There's actually a story of her, and she drove all the way across the country with some friends and camped all along the way. She only camped while she was traveling. I think she just sounded really brave. And then whenever you look inside this cabin, they called it the brown house instead of the white house, which I thought was really cute. And so whenever you look inside this cabin that they stayed in, it was not luxurious.
No.
It had a fireplace, it had a bedroom, and it had a main area with the kitchen and stuff, or maybe not a kitchen, because I think they had a cafeteria or something in a separate building.
Yeah, separate building.
But it had a nice big porch. You could tell it was made for them. The intent was not for them to even be inside.
Right.
It was small. And but you could see where she would sit in a rocking chair and maybe do her, I think, crocheting or knitting or something like that. She actually designed their home on the Stanford campus in California, as well as the Brown House at Shenandoah National Park. So she really liked to design these places that they lived in, which I think is really cool too.
Yeah, that was really fascinating. It was so cool to like learn all of that on this hike, because you hike down 2 miles and then you're hiking back and you've like learned all of this stuff, and I feel like the hike back gives you like an active chance to sort of like ponder and retain a lot of it. It's just a really cool way to learn stuff. I know like in Europe, we did a lot of walking tours, and coming up in a couple episodes, we do walking tours in like Charleston and Savannah. And I think that act of like learning stuff as you're walking really helps you hang on to stuff in a way that otherwise you probably wouldn't.
Another place that we really loved was where we stayed, the Endless Caverns.
Yeah, it's not just a name on an RV park. Like they have caverns there, and we got to take a tour. As another instance where we signed up for a tour, and I think we paid a little bit for this one, but no one else signed up, so it was just us.
Yeah, again.
And
very cool.
Yeah, like just the two of us and a tour guide. So again, you kind of felt this freedom to ask more questions. And
it was also creepier in a cave.
Yeah, that's
when it's
true.
Just the two of us
with
and
all
one guy.
those people. Yeah, we were like, I remember thinking like, I really hope that this guy doesn't have a heart attack or something, because there's no way we're waking it out of here.
Oh no, for sure.
And the way that they did the tour too was they have lights down there and they have switches on like sections. And
oh right, we really couldn't have made it out.
No, because he would switch on the next section and switch off the one we just came to, and he'd walk us through it and kind of tell us about it and show us, tell us what we were seeing and like show us through. And then you come to the next section, you turn the lights on for those, off for this one. And so you're kind of going through, the lights aren't on the whole time of every section, just the section you're in. So if something happened to him, like,
we couldn't turn on all the lights and get out.
No, I have no idea what we would have done. And these caverns, like the other thing about them is they actually are endless.
Yeah.
I thought surely it's just a name. Like we're in Virginia.
Yeah, I didn't even think anything about it. Really,
Like,
I was just like, oh.
Yeah, we've been around here forever. But you found out on the tour that in the 60s, an expedition went down because they wanted to like fully investigate and really like, let's map out these caverns in full. And they ran out of food and had to turn around and come back. And they were down there for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
So it's not like they ran out of snacks in a day and came back. Like they went exploring for a week and a half.
They went prepared
And didn't find the end of the cavern. No one ever has.
That's really crazy.
Which was insane to me.
And I love how the caverns were like found in the first place. It sounds so realistic. Tell them that story. That's so crazy.
Yeah. So like the first people to explore it were a couple boys from a farm nearby.
Couple kids.
Yeah. In the late 1800s, they came across the entrance to this cave, and being boys, they're like, let's go get some rope and some candles and start exploring this thing. And that's what they did.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And from there, like it just more and more people, and it eventually now there's an RV park there. At one point in the tour, I remember him saying, okay, like I think he had us get close to like a guardrail.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, like keep your hand on the guardrail and I'm going to turn the lights out. And he was like, make sure that, because we were taking pictures and stuff like that. So it's like, put your phones in your pocket and cameras away, and make sure you don't have like your Apple Watches covered up and all that. And I'm going to turn the lights out. And he did. And you're in complete darkness.
True darkness.
And I don't think I had ever been, like I'd been in a couple caves before, but not really, and only as a kid, and nothing like this. But I don't think I've ever been in actual true complete darkness.
Yeah.
And it's so dark that if you stay in it long enough, your eyes are so much searching for light, and there is the complete lack of it, that they never adjust. And you actually start to see things, like your brain plays tricks on you.
Creepy.
Because you think you start to see things because your eyes won't adjust, because there's absolutely nothing for them to adjust to.
That's crazy.
And I also was struck by how quiet
it
was. Because you're deep in this cave. And I also thought like, oh, there's going to be animals and things like that. But that's not true. Like, animals will kind of come in like the entrance of a cave, but won't go deep into a cave because there's nothing back there.
There's nothing to eat. There's no reason.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to go back in. So they'll come in far enough to get shelter from a storm or something like that, but never deep into a cave. And so there's absolutely nothing back there, no sound at all.
Wild.
Which was really creepy too.
Yeah.
Super creepy. Way creepier than I even thought.
Yeah.
And he told us that during Prohibition in the 20s, people would have parties down in the caves. And he showed us like a room. We came to part of the caves where it's like this bigger room. And he was like, this is the room where people would bring down like lanterns and candles and their booze and like have parties down here.
And nobody could hear them.
Right.
So it would be completely safe. Like
Yeah.
you're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah, you're not getting caught down there,
Yeah.
which I thought was crazy. It's just something that you never think of.
Yeah.
And-
I just really wish I'd been there for one of those parties. I really, really think I'd like that.
Well, I know that, and he told us that like they stopped doing it, but in the recent past, people would come down there for Halloween parties.
Oh man, I'd love that.
And like that would be pretty wild.
Yeah.
I was also surprised, like the temperature. The temperature stays 55 degrees year round. Doesn't change.
Yeah.
So middle of the summer, 55 degrees.
Yep.
Middle of the winter, 55 degrees.
Yep.
Which was really cool too. I guess I just hadn't ever really thought about it. You think of a cave being like cold or cooler, but I hadn't really thought that like not only is that true, it's a little cooler, but it doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't move around.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah. You can see some of this cave too on our YouTube video. We've got some footage of it. Surprisingly, they do a really good job of lighting them really well, especially that main big room that the boys first discovered. It was kind of the first room they came upon. It's really, really well lit, and there's so many layers to they did a good job lighting. There's layers and layers of lights within the walls. And so it looks really, really cool. But you can see some of that on the YouTube video out there. And oh yeah, our tour guide, he had some great stories, and we just kind of got to pick his brain. And he was telling us about how, to your point about the temperature, he stayed overnight in the heat of the summer one summer due to not having electricity at home. Something happened with his electricity. It was really hot. And he was able to go, because he worked there, he could unlock the caves, and he went and stayed overnight. And he was like, if you're going to stay in a cave overnight, though, you need to keep your flashlight like in your sleeping bag, because you will never find it in the dark. You won't find it.
That's insane.
So don't sit it next to yourself. Like,
right.
Put it inside the sleeping bag with you. I thought that was really good advice and really disturbing. And he also said that he took a group of Girl Scouts deep into the caves and was crawling around into some of the small spaces, and just how crazy that was to have like this troop of little girls that are like, you know, finding their way through this cave. And it just sounds like so brave. And he was also telling us about how somebody died on one of his tours.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember? That was crazy. And, he had concerns about like an elderly guest that was coming on the tour. The guest and, his family, they were like, no, he's fine. They were really insistent. Like it would be fine for him to continue. And he had heart problems along the way, and he later died in the hospital. But it was really disturbing to him, because it was one of those things where they really push like, you have to know your limits.
Right.
Because like as a tour guide, he can't know what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. And you have to be honest with yourself about and take responsibility for what you're really capable of and know your limits. And so you can make the right call for yourself. But it was one of those things where he had a bad feeling about it and had pushed back and really said, are you sure? Like, I don't think this is a good idea. And they were like, nope, it's great. And everything will be fine. And it wasn't.
Yeah. I feel like so many people go beyond what they're really capable of because they're on vacation, because they're somewhere
and
else.
They don't want to miss out.
Right.
FOMO.
Yeah.
Travel FOMO right there.
But it's just another reason to like stay in shape.
Yeah.
Because when you do go to places, you do want to see it all, and you do want to explore. You don't want to be the one that has to stay behind.
Yeah.
And so just, use that upcoming trip as motivation to get out and get those steps in.
That's true. Yeah, it is. It is motivation for us usually.
It was such a crazy thing to explore that cave. I think especially for us, because we grew up in the middle of America where there aren't caves. But our tour guide, he grew up in Virginia. He was telling us that there are tons of caves all throughout Virginia, and it's a very common thing. He like you said, he took a group of Girl Scouts exploring the caves, and it was such a foreign thing that is such a common thing there.
Yeah.
But you don't like you don't know till you get to go see it and
Right.
experience it. And it was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. What would you say is kind of like the personality of Shenandoah National Park and that area, the Appalachian Mountains and all of that?
I thought it was really peaceful there.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, like it was getting into like later in the fall. So all of the like kids are back in school.
Yeah.
People aren't taking vacations anymore. So
It was early October. Yeah.
Right. Like, so things are like we're quieting down, I think just in general, kind of everywhere. So we didn't have as many crowds.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that park in particular with, the Blue Ridge Mountains are these sort of like rolling mountains with
Mm-hmm.
trees all over them. And every morning there's like fog out over the mountains and you see, and I thought it was just really peaceful
Yeah.
and quiet. And I definitely understood why Hoover would want to escape the pressures of a place like Washington, D.C. and the White House and come out to a place where he could really think and process. And it made a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, it does. And almost in a way, it feels like a patriotic place to be because it is where a president would choose to spend his time.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of decisions that impacted our country happened there.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of like, I don't know, something about it feels like patriotic is the best word I can come up with in this moment. But yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are not done with our fall excursions.
Yes.
We are about to head south, but not before we head back north and go to Vermont.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Lots of good stuff to come in Vermont. You're going to want to make sure that you are subscribed. You want to go out and check out the YouTube video for what we had in Shenandoah, and make sure you're subscribed there because you'll want to see everything that we did in Vermont. It was a lot of fun and very, very fall, very, very Vermonty. We did all the things.
Can I put in a plug of my favorite thing that we did?
What was your favorite thing that we did?
I loved that and I'm telling you, I had done an actual, as a child, there's a couple things. The Sound of Music, loved that movie growing up. I was in the play 4 times, loved it. So the whole story of the Von Trapp family and Captain Von Trapp and Maria, loved that. And lo and behold, whenever they arrived to America, as they're fleeing World War II, they came to Vermont and they set up their family a lodge and everything. And so it's there. And I had done when I was a little kid, had done some kind of geography lesson. And I'd been given, I think Vermont was one of the things I'd been given. And I did research, and that's how I found out that they had there was a ski resort there owned by the Von Trapp family. And so I've always wanted to go. And so that's where we will go in the next episode. And it is actually kind of emotional for me.
You'll want to make sure that you are on board for that. And as always, there was a travel day mishap that we will tell you all about in our next episode. In between now and then, you can go out and watch our YouTube channel. You can also connect with us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're all those places where we will post stuff from Shenandoah, shots from the Endless Caverns, things like that for you to enjoy between now and the next episode.
That's right. And you can also get to us by email. We are at travelfomopodcast@gmail.com. It's a great way to connect with us, or maybe share a story that you have that you want us to just know about, tips that you have, tips that we might be able to share with others. I know my mom listens, so if there's anything you want to tell my mom, you can do that by emailing us at travelfomopodcast@gmail.com. Our one listener mom. No. Okay, well, that is a wrap, guys. Life is short.
Wonder well.